I want you to think about the last time that you went to a networking event. Did you walk away feeling like you had real connections, or did you just walk away with a handful of awkward conversations and a pile of business cards that you immediately forgot who their name matched to? What face did that go to? Honestly, I mean, the truth is most people are networking the wrong way. And I used to be one of them. I used to think of networking as a dirty word. I was like, ew, who would want to go and talk about work after work? What a giant waste of time. And, honestly, it was costing me clients. It was costing me collaborations, and it was costing me real business growth. Well, today we are going to be talking about how to fix that.
This episode is brought to you by Metricool. From planning to publishing to understanding what's actually working, Metricool gives you data-driven control. And with their built-in AI tools and competitor tracking, you'll stop guessing and start growing. Just click the link in the show notes for 30 free days of premium access and make sure to use the code Katie30. All right, let's get into today's episode.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Today, we're going to be talking about something that could totally change the way that you grow your business. And it's not just another campaign ad or some sort of posting hack. No, we're not talking about reels or anything like that today, folks. It's networking. And it's not the kind that feels awkward or fake or kind of like you need a shower afterwards. My guest today is Melissa Snow, and she is a business relationship strategist and the founder of Powerful Women Rising, which is a community all about supporting women entrepreneurs. She's also the host of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. That's how she and I got to know each other. And we found out that we actually go way back. We grew up in the same area, and it just took us the world of digital to really get connected and be like, man, you're pretty cool. So are you. Like, how can we collab and how can we learn more from each other? And she's here today to show us how to build real, authentic connections. Man, it can be your best marketing tool and how you can actually enjoy this whole networking process. So, Melissa, thank you so much for joining me on Rocky Mountain Marketing today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, and like I said, I was a guest on your show. Man, was it about like 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
But it's been a while. And we've stayed connected through the world of social media, and I'm on your email list. I've been to one of your incredible networking events, and we just found out that, I've been hanging around Colorado Springs, which is where you live, because I'm in the eWomen chapter there, and you're part of the Polka Dot chapter there. So, I mean, it's amazing how, sometimes your paths are just crossing, but it just takes the right event for you to make that connection. So what really brought you into this whole like networking for business growth kind of angle for helping business owners out there?
Yeah. So my first business was called Rocky Mountain Legal Consulting. I did contract paralegal work for personal injury attorneys. And that business was kind of handed to me from another business owner who didn't want to keep doing that part of his business. And he was like, hey, do you want to do this? And I was like, sure. And overnight, I became an entrepreneur with a full client load and a booming business. And I was like, this is super fun. Entrepreneurship is so cool. So my second business, I got my certification as a life coach, and I started my business. It was called Love Starts Here. I was a dating and relationship coach. And that was not nearly as fun or easy as the first one, because it turns out you have to actually like go and find your clients and sell to them and market to them. And there was a huge learning curve there, huge. But I had that business for about 6 or 7 years. And one of the main things that I realized growing that business is that networking really is one of the most sustainable, but also I think underrated forms of business growth that there is. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it, about what networking is and how to do it right or correctly. And I think it really can make all the difference in your business if you know how to do it in a way that feels authentic and aligned for you, but also in a way that is intentional and gets results. And so when I started Powerful Women Rising, that's really what I wanted to do, was help women in particular, but this is applicable to every business owner, to figure out how to grow their business through genuine connections and business relationships.
Well, and I think that, like I said at the beginning, when I worked in corporate, I was like, why would anyone want to go do this? This sounds gross, sounds boring. Like when I get done with work, I want to leave work. And I think that a lot of people might not be realizing what a powerful marketing strategy networking can be. So, I mean, let's talk about how when you have the right networking strategy, it's an incredible marketing strategy. And it's not just a nice to have. It absolutely is a need to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we first need to talk about what marketing or what networking is and what it isn't, because one of the big misconceptions about networking is a lot of people think when they go to a networking event or a group or they're networking anywhere that it's about finding clients. It's about making sales. It's about who in the room is going to want to buy my thing.
Yeah.
And that's actually the wrong approach. And if you're doing that, it's fine. Like we all did it in the beginning, right? I spent so much money when I first started networking because I thought, this is how this works. I buy your essential oils, you hire me as a coach. I buy your skincare products, you hire me, right? Like this is how it works. And really, the purpose of networking is to build your network. It's to create connections and grow your relationships. And when you think of it that way, it makes a big difference in how you approach it. And it also makes a big difference about in like just how it feels to you, right? Because having conversations and making connections with people, that sounds for most people less intimidating than like trying to cold sell your service or your product.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I think we need to keep in mind. And then when it comes to using networking as a marketing strategy, what I always say is there's no other marketing strategy that compounds on itself as much as networking. There's a really old definition of networking that is, more about like computers and robotics and that kind of network, but it is a broadcast system of multiple transmitters. And I just love that definition in the context of networking for business as well, because if you think about it, you as yourself are only one broadcast system, right? So you have this new product, you have this new offering, you have a new thought, you have something interesting to share with the world, and you can broadcast that to everyone who's in your network. But if you have trusted people in your network, they also have broadcast systems, right? With multiple transmitters. So you and I have a relationship. I have 100 people in my network. So now that's 100 more people that you can reach without you having to meet them at networking events, have coffee chats with them, nurture them on your email list, right? You don't have to do anything other than have a relationship with me because I have a relationship with these people. And it's going to keep building on itself, right? Because everyone in my network has a network. Everyone in their network has a network. And so it just keeps compounding over time. And I think that that is really where the value in investing your time and energy in networking really pays off.
I think that, Melissa, too, one of the things that I noticed when I first started going to networking events, there was one networking event that I used to attend, both when I worked in corporate and then when I first started my business. And it's exactly like what you said, is showing up with, what can you do for me instead of how can I serve?
Yeah.
And it almost felt like speed dating for sales. Some of these events that I'd go to, I was like, oh God, like I'm not interested in selling my house. I don't need any insurance. Like I'm not looking for a new financial advisor. And it really just felt like speed dating, but in a sales way. So how can people show up and have that clear intention? So that they're showing up with that serve first sort of mentality, because if you just walk around like, hey, who can I help? Who can I help here? I think that almost is like, what's wrong with this person?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first thing is just really being clear about who it is that you want to connect with at the event or in the group. Or really, I mean, I speak a lot about networking events, but networking can happen anywhere you have an opportunity to create a relationship with somebody. So I think the first thing is knowing who you're looking for. And that's going to change depending on what stage of business you're in, what you've got going on. Maybe you're pre-launch. Maybe you've just realized you have a huge gap in your business, right? So don't assume that your answer last time is the same as your answer this time as far as who you're looking to connect with. But I think having that awareness of where the gaps in your network are is really helpful as far as being intentional, because there's a lot of different roles that people are going to fill in your network, right? You may never be someone who joins the Powerful Women Rising community. So does that mean you have no value in my network? Of course not, right? Because I've taken your programs. They've helped me immensely with my podcast and with my YouTube channel. We have referred people to each other. We've recommended people to each other. You've been on my podcast. I've been on your podcast. So they're recognizing that there's a lot of different things that people can do for you other than giving you money or sending you someone who's going to give you money. And I think that when you think of it that way, you can be a lot more intentional as far as who you're looking for. And it's a lot clearer to you when you find those people too, right? Because they're the ones who want to know about you. They're ones who want to know what challenges are you facing, what would be helpful for you, what resources can I share without expecting something in return, as opposed to just like sweaty hand Joe who wants to sell you his insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh, that kind of made my hands sweat just thinking about that. Ugh. Well, and you talked about the community, the community that, I've introduced, maybe Melissa's not a client, but she has 100 people in her community that one of them is the right fit for me. They trust Melissa making this introduction. That makes it, okay, like I'm sending a referral as a friend, and I think that makes a huge difference when you've built that true community. And I know I mentioned it earlier in the podcast here. You have your Powerful Women Rising community. Talk to us really quick about what that is, because I think that community, that's built-in marketing, that's referrals, that's support, that's collaboration. So talk to us really quick about that. And then I want to ask you a couple questions about the importance of having this community for your networking events.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Powerful Women Rising community is an online community for female entrepreneurs. We have women who are in all stages of business. We have women who have just started and have no paying clients. We have women who have been in business for 26 years. There's no revenue requirement. There's no experience requirement. And really the beauty of it is the diversity, because there is so much that someone who's been in business 26 years can offer to someone who is brand new. And there's also a lot that someone who's brand new can offer to someone who's been in business for 26 years, right? We forget that we can't see things the same way that we saw them 26 years ago. So I really created the community to be a space where women can come together and support each other in business. They can create real, genuine connections and relationships. And they can do it in a way that serves their business at the same time. So we have networking calls, we have mastermind calls, we have co-working calls. We have a lot of different opportunities for them to spend time with each other and get to know each other and their businesses better without having to do 1,000 coffee dates, although inevitably they end up doing coffee dates because they just want to. But it's really got the follow-up built in so that if you're showing up to these calls, you're working on your business, you're serving and supporting other people and getting the support from other people, you're organically creating those connections and those relationships. And that really pays off in your business in a lot of ways.
We will be sure to include a link to check this out for everyone listening. It'll be in the show notes. But I want to highlight something you just said. You have people at all aspects of the business in there. And in your experience, for people that are, day one entrepreneurs to day 1001, whatever, what is that biggest mindset shift that those day one entrepreneurs need to make before they step into a networking event? Because I think that it can be difficult for those day one entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot, but I think the biggest one, and something that really holds newer entrepreneurs back from going to networking events or building connections, is the imposter syndrome, for lack of a less cliched way to say it. We feel like everybody in this room knows what they're doing. Everyone in this room knows that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a real business owner. Everybody's going to know I'm not a real business owner. We introduce ourselves and we feel like we have to make caveats, right? Like I used to go and be like, I'm a brand new coach and I just do this and this and I'm just getting started. So I don't really have any paying clients, but I'm really interested in learning from everybody. And we don't have to do that. You can go in and say to these people who have never met you in your whole life, I am a coach. I have a business. This is my offering. This is who I serve. This is the problem I solve. Can't wait to meet all of you, right? Own the fact that you have something to offer just as much as everybody else in that room does, because that actually is genuinely true. Mm-hmm. And own the fact that you have just as much of a right to be in that room as everybody else. And the only difference between you and the people that you think are legitimate is maybe confidence, right? You and I have been in business for a long time. I can only speak for myself, but I would imagine you are the same, that there are plenty of times that I walk into a room that I'm like, why am I here? I have no idea what I'm doing. Everything that I ever thought about myself and my business is ridiculous, and everyone here is going to know it. Like that never goes away. So just know that everyone in the room is also feeling that same thing at some point, and that none of it is actually true.
I love it. And I think that with what you said of having a game plan before you even walk into the room, knowing that you do have that superpower, whether you've been doing it for this day one of your business or day, 1,000,001, that is your superpower. That is what you should have the confidence in. If someone has that going in, they say, okay, these are the people I want to meet. This is my power statement. I want to go in and meet as many people as possible. I only have 5 minutes to meet as many people as possible. What's the smartest way for them to use that 5 minutes?
They have 5 minutes in the room, or they have 5 minutes with each person?
5 minutes in the room. So let's say we're at your
shortest networking event ever made.
Yes. So we're at Melissa's event. We go into the breakout rooms, and you have 5 minutes to just say, hey, here's what I have to say. What's the smartest way for them to use that time?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is really important to know is that people make decisions on how they feel about you and whether they want to get to know you more in the first 7 to 11 seconds. So you don't have a lot of time.
Holy cow.
So again, with the imposter syndrome, if you use that first 11 seconds to go, oh, hi, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm trying to be a coach, and like, you're done. You might as well just not go with the next 4 minutes and 50 seconds, right? So think about what the key words or phrases are that automatically signal to the people that you want to connect with that you are the person that they want to connect with. So that could be words or phrases that identify your ideal client. It could also be words or phrases that identify your ideal power partner, right? So somebody that would be a good person for you to collaborate with, somebody that would be a good person to exchange referrals with. So somebody who does something similar to what you do or has a similar audience, but doesn't do exactly what you do. And know what those keywords or phrases are and get some of those in right at the beginning, right? So I am always sure to include the fact that I only work with female entrepreneurs within the first 10 seconds. Because if you're a man, you can stop listening, or you can keep listening because maybe you know female entrepreneurs that would be a good fit for me, right? But there's really key things to include. Like the example that I always use is a friend I have who has a meal prep service. And if she starts talking right away about busy moms, or, this meme I saw that's about like, how come no one told me that being a mom is really just figuring out what to make for dinner over and over again every night until you die. Like if she starts with that, every woman that relates to that is now completely keyed in and focused and knows, I don't even know what she's selling, but if it solves this problem of trying to figure out what to make for dinner every night, I'm buying it. Yep. Right? So if you can get that in the first like 10 to 15 seconds, that I think is the key.
I agree. And I think it's the same with your podcast, social media. You have to know who you're talking to, who your product is for. And if you haven't looked at that, then man, you're talking to everyone, and then people are going to tune you out because they haven't heard the word that's, oh, wait, what did Melissa just say? She works, wait, what? That's me. I'm super busy. I want to know more. I hate planning dinner or whatever. So finding those things that help you stand out, man, I can't agree enough, Melissa. So let's say I heard what you had to say. Like, man, that's amazing. How do I follow up with you? What is your go-to strategy for keeping in touch without feeling pushy and salesy and slimy? Like what is your go-to strategy for that? Because I think the follow-up is where so many of us miss that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a networking planner that people can download on my website that's free. And I actually use that myself every month to keep track of who the people I want to follow up with are, whether they are like warm leads that I've met previously that I'm like, oh, I haven't connected with them in a little while. And I also keep track of like new people that I meet at networking events that I want to make sure that I keep in touch with. And I think the best way to do that really is to look for ways to provide value or create a personal connection. So I will often make notes on my, like if I have a roster or something like that, when I'm meeting people at networking events, and they're not necessarily, sometimes it's notes about like, oh, I want to connect her with Katie Brinkley, but sometimes it's like, oh, her son is getting married this summer, right? Not necessarily relevant to business, but when I follow up with her at the end of August, I can say, it was really great meeting you at that event. I know you've been super busy this summer with your son's wedding. I hope it was beautiful. Or like, I saw the pictures on Facebook. It looked amazing. Would love to connect with you when you have recovered, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you can do something like that, number one, the person remembers you because they're like, oh yeah, I met her at that thing. And I did talk about that. But also they feel so seen and heard. And the fact that you remembered and cared enough to bring it up 60 days later, there's actually studies on the brain that show that feeling seen and heard creates the same reaction in your brain as feeling loved. So that creates a really significant, authentic connection with that person because you remembered and cared enough to bring up that personal detail. And then I also love just finding ways to provide value for people. Like I know you and I both are on these lists where we get emails weekly or sometimes daily of like, we're looking for quotes for this article, or we're looking for guests on this podcast that is about like aliens or whatever, right? Like it's something that you and I are like, I'm probably not going to apply to be on that podcast. But I just met Janice at last week's networking event, and that's what she does. I don't know.
Yeah.
She works with aliens.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's going to take me 5 seconds to forward that email to Janice and say, hey, go to the bottom, UFO podcast, looking for guests that do exactly what you do. Just thought I'd share this if it's of interest, right? I'm not expecting anything back from her. If she never sends me a podcast to be a guest on, that's fine. But I have now created a connection with her where she sees like her success is important enough to me to be like, hey, here's a really awesome resource that made me think of you that I wanted to share with you. And that's a great way to start building connections with people and make sure that you stay on their mind.
I love that. And I think that's the next step, right? I mean, once we've made that initial conversation, that initial touch, okay, now we've followed up, you've established this community. I feel like that's the difference between networking and community.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that they're kind of the same, or are they two sides of the same coin?
I think networking is how you build your community.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And I think that once you are able to take it to that next step, that's what really forms that connection.
Yeah.
How do you recommend that, like you just gave the UFO example, but how do you recommend that entrepreneurs really nurture that existing network without it feeling like another task, another box to check on their to-do list? Like, okay, well now I got to go ahead and pop on into LinkedIn and send all these messages and say, hey, Melissa, how's it going?
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend they do to kind of nurture those connections after they've made them?
I think it depends on who you are and what you like to do, where you like to hang out, what you like to spend your time doing. If you're somebody who listens to a lot of podcasts, then maybe that is going to be a good way for you to be like, hey, I just heard this one, made me think of our conversation. Maybe you're somebody who spends a lot of time on LinkedIn, right? So you're going to do a lot of engaging with people on LinkedIn, that you're going to intentionally find the people that you met at these events and engage with them thoughtfully on LinkedIn. I'm not talking about like cold DMs. I'm not talking about comments on their posts that are like, great post, right? That's not the vibe, but thoughtfully engaging with them. You can, if they're in person and you want to have coffee with them, maybe you did an in-person event and you met like 4 or 5 women that you thought were really cool and you want to connect with them. Maybe you send them all an email and say, I thought you all were really cool. I think you'll all think each other is really cool. Do you all want to get together and grab coffee? Right now we can follow up with 5 people in 45 minutes rather than just one. Maybe you're an email person. Maybe you say to the person like, I would love to add you to my email list because I send out this monthly newsletter that includes this, this, and this, and I think you would love it. Is that okay with you? right? You're not adding them without their consent, but you are telling them, like, I actually do send something out that would be valuable to you, and I would love the opportunity to share with you if you're interested. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I just always recommend people find what they like to do and what works for them. Because as you know, in marketing, we do so much of trying to force ourselves to do stuff we don't actually want to do because we think it's what we're supposed to do, or it's like the best practice. And really the best practice is like, do the thing that you like, go to the place where you like to spend time already and engage with people in that way, rather than trying to force yourself to do it in a way that you don't like, because that's not going to be sustainable for you.
1,000,000%. All right. So as we wrap up today's episode, let's just hop in the DeLorean and go to 5 years from now. We're not going to go all the way, that far into the future. What would you like to see become, quote unquote, normal for how entrepreneurs, how business owners network and build relationships? Because I got to be honest with you, 5 years ago, I never thought that I'd be almost 400 episodes into my podcast, that I'd even have a podcast. I mean,
Right.
It's amazing how fast and things are changing, especially with AI. So what would you love to see to become normal 5 years from now?
Yeah. It's funny you bring up AI, because I actually think that networking is going to become increasingly important as AI becomes increasingly popular, because AI is a great substitute for a lot of things, but it will never be a substitute for connection. And the only way to build know, like, and trust is through genuine connection, through authentic relationships. And so I just would love to see networking keep moving in that direction. One of the reasons that I started the Powerful Women Rising community is because I couldn't find a networking group that was like the balance between the like super transactional, cold networking groups, and then the other ones that were like, we're all friends, we spend time, it's fun. But if you talk about your business, like if you even mention you have a business, you're a salesy weirdo, right? So I really wanted to find something that was in the middle, where it's like, yeah, let's not pretend we're not here to build a business. We are. And also, can we do it authentically and with integrity and, by supporting each other? And so I just would love to see networking continue to move in that direction, and people continue to realize the value of that personal connection.
I could not agree more, Melissa. In a world full of AI and where I can clone myself and clone my voice and, automate this and that, man, there's nothing that beats just a true one-on-one connection. And I think that conferences, networking events are going to see a resurgence. I know that after COVID, a lot of people have kind of taken a step back. I think that with AI, people are going to crave that in-person connection more than ever. So I could not agree more. Well, Melissa, if people want to join one of these amazing networking events, I've been to a couple now, love going to them. I meet great people. People want to connect with you more. What's the best way for people to get into your network?
Yeah, just go to my website, which is powerfulwomenrising.com. You can find my podcast there, which is also called Powerful Women Rising. If you go to the event section, you can find the link to register for one of my monthly virtual speed networking events. We do those the first Tuesday of every month. And they're only $5. So the link to register is on there. And then you can also learn more about the Powerful Women Rising community on the website.
Amazing. Yeah. And if you like podcasts, check out, Melissa's podcast too. I mean, I was a guest on it. It's great content. So listening to this show, listen to hers too. Well, Melissa, thank you again so much for joining me on Rocky Mountain Marketing today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. I hope you're leaving with valuable insights and the inspiration to lead your market. If you've enjoyed our time together and found today's podcast episode useful, I have a small favor to ask of you. Please hit that subscribe button to stay updated with the latest episodes. And if you know someone who could benefit from these episodes, maybe a fellow business leader or an aspiring entrepreneur, go ahead and share this episode with them. Let's spread the knowledge and grow together. Also, I'd love to hear from you and continue the conversation beyond the podcast. Visit me at katiebrinkley.com to connect, to find more resources, or just to share your journey. And be sure to pick up your copy of my new book, The Social Shift, at katiebrinkley.com/book.
Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Katie Brinkley, and I can't wait to dive into more strategies and stories with you on the next episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Let's keep on taking your marketing to new heights.